Hello, welcome to another episode of Snapshots. I hope you guys are well. I'm really looking forward to this one, I've got to say. I've got someone on here who I'm talking to now who I've got massive respect for, but also I know he's a really good fun guy, so I think we're going to have a really good chat. And it's Nick Livesey. So hello Nick, how are you?
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm good, mate. I'm really good. You good?
Yeah, I'm alright.
Yeah. Busy day?
I'm a bit... Do you know what? I've had a quiet day today. I was working yesterday on the hill, but I'm a little bit nervous, you know.
Oh, God, no. You don't need to be nervous talking to me, mate. Jesus, I should be nervous talking to you. It should be the other way around.
No, it's just you pubcast guys. I feel like I'm talking to pop stars. Because I see you on the internet all the time, you know.
Oh, yeah, we're so popular. We are. Oh, dear. All right, so look, for people who don't know who you are, I'm sure pretty much everyone knows who you are, but for people who don't know who you are, give us a brief, introduction. Who are you, and tell us about what you do.
Well, I'm Nick Livesey, a lover of mountains, photographer, writer. I'm a mountain leader, and I live in Capel in Snowdonia. That's about it, really.
So I'm just gonna ask you a load of questions. I'm just gonna throw them at you, and just feel free to answer them however you want. So my first question is, when did you start photography?
Well, we all take photographs, don't we? But there's a time, isn't there, when you think, I want to think of myself as a photographer. And that would have been 2010.
Okay.
So I've been doing it a long time now, and you go in peaks and troughs, don't you? I'm in a bit of a trough at the moment, but no, what's that? It's 12 years now, so it's quite a while.
Yeah, and why? Why photography? What got you into it?
Well, this is going to sound really pretentious, but I just really wanted to communicate my love for the mountains, in a medium that a wider audience could sort of participate in. And I wanted to be a writer, but I got no GCSEs. There was no way I was going to get in that. I got no journalistic qualifications. So I thought, photography is really egalitarian. There's no bars to entry.
No.
Any fool can do it. And if you go out often enough and you take a camera with you, you're going to take a nice little snap now and again. The light will be nice or whatever. And I thought, yeah, photography, I'll do it.
Brilliant. And so then you started YouTube. And when did that begin?
Well, I actually started YouTube in about 2011. And I think I probably did the very first photography vlog.
Oh, wow. Okay, tell me about that.
Well, it's a bit of a spoof one. It's where I go out in my local countryside, because I was living in rural Northamptonshire at the time, Rockingham near Corby.
Okay, yeah.
So we had the Welland Valley and Harringworth Viaduct, and it was a really gorgeous place to live. So when I couldn't get into the hills, I'd be roaming around the Welland Valley, and it was based there. And it was basically me just getting more and more sort of crazy and unhinged throughout this maybe 6-minute video. And I think, what was it, 11 years ago, I could have been the Thomas Heaton. That could have been me.
You could have been, but I take it that was a one-off, was it?
I did a one-off, and I did a couple of shorts sporadically here and there, but it's a lot of work, isn't it, putting these little films together? So
it is a lot of work, and especially your style, because you do an awful lot of B-roll, and I've watched a lot of your videos, and they're beautiful. They're always beautifully crafted videos, and they're almost cinematic, because it's less work, I think, if you just go off with your GoPro and I'm going to do this today. But yours are always very much more cinematic and tell a story.
Well, what I've always tried to do is, the some of the vloggers out there, they're doing 30-minute videos, and most of it's just waffle. Mm-hmm. I don't like waffling to a camera. I'm struggling now, you know what I mean? I'm tripping over my words. But what I wanted to do really was condense things into a shorter form of maybe, 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I think that's all I personally need to tell the story I want to tell. Yeah. I don't need lots of fluff, really.
That's my job. Loads of waffle and crap is my job, mate. So, yeah. So, why YouTube though? What drew you to making videos?
I think really it's just because it was a medium that was available. Now, I've always been a creative person. In another life I was a musician. I was a session musician and a studio engineer and a producer and a guitar teacher. I've done lots of watercolour painting. I've done lots of writing. So I've always wanted an outlet for these creative urges I get. Do you know what I mean? And
Totally.
because YouTube's there, I had a digital camera, and I think I had Windows Movie Maker at the time, which I was gutted when they stopped supporting that.
So it is going back a bit, isn't it? Crikey.
It is, but you know, it was all there and very easy to do. You know, editing films was no problem because these days it's all on a timeline, and working in a recording studio, it's exactly the same thing, really. You're just piecing bits and bobs together and moving them around. So it was very intuitive and available to me, so why not?
Yeah, I know. I agree. I'm the same as you. I think we're quite similar in that respect. I love photography because it's a creative pursuit. I love making videos because it's a creative pursuit. Before I did that, I used to do arty things on my computer because it's a creative pursuit. It's you have that. I think creative people have that thirst, don't they? That they need to quench somehow.
It's the need to express.
Mm-hmm.
But in order to express, you must first feel.
Yeah, no, I agree.
You've got to have something that you want to impart to others. And to some of us, that need is quite strong. So thank heavens we've got all these sort of mediums available to us to work with.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I tell you what, if someone was coming and they don't know Nick Livesey, they don't know what he's about, and you wanted to show them what you're about in one of your videos, which one do you think you would recommend for them to watch?
I think the one where I'm most successfully manipulating people's emotions, because that's what artists do, it would be the loneliness of lockdown.
That was brilliant. Yeah, I'm with you on that.
And I created the music on that one to really pull on the heartstrings. I've used some really cynical ploys in the storytelling to make people feel sorry for me. And I was perfectly happy at the time. It's just that you want to make people feel things. That's what musicians and artists do.
Totally agree. It's videos and all that. The whole creative genre is about telling stories and evoking emotions, isn't it? So yeah, totally get that.
It's about sharing the human condition in all its facets.
Yeah, totally get that. That's a brilliant answer, I've got to say. So, if you were to give us one photography tip, doesn't have to be technical tip, but one photography tip, what would it be?
Love what you're taking photographs of. There's nothing else. You know, if you really love planes, take photographs of planes. As a technical exercise, it's a pretty hollow thing to be doing, isn't it? Because then you're getting into camera club realm, where you're not really fussed about anything. You're not communicating. You're just indulging in a technical process, rather than saying, I'm burning about this particular subject. I've got to communicate it.
Yeah.
I'm going to choose photography. And in my case, that was mountains. But I do believe that if you don't feel anything for the thing you're photographing, then you can't expect a viewer to, can you?
Did you have a light bulb moment when you worked that out? Because I did. I had a light bulb moment when I thought I have to give a feeling across to someone via this medium, via this photograph. I have to feel something myself, and I have to evoke the emotion in the photograph for it to be good. Did you feel the same? Did you?
No, because mountains were the inspiration from the very start.
Okay.
And because the outdoors and walking in the hills was really transformative to me, that need to tell others was very strong. So I already knew that I wanted to communicate a feeling. And originally it was a feeling to my contemporaries in the Ortons of Peterborough.
Oh, I know that place.
You know, a lot of my friends from school, they're still there now. They got no teeth, they're on methadone, they're in a bad way. And I was heading down that road. And when I discovered these hills, I'm like, come on everybody, get on board with this amazing discovery I've made.
Would you say the hills? It sounds a bit ridiculous, but would you say the hills are a little bit your salvation?
In many ways, yeah. And I'm not a totally reconstructed character. You know, I really am not at all. But over the 20 years I've been going in the mountains and photographing them and emoting about them, they've completely transformed my life. 20 years ago I was sitting in my mum's house in Orton Golday. Now I'm sitting in a little white cottage on the side of Moyle Shabod.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing how things change, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah. Yeah. So right. So I'm gonna ask you another question then, because I've got a few, but along the lines. If you could go back to your 18-year-old self and offer them one piece of advice, what would that be?
Don't do drugs. Just don't do drugs. It's not worth it.
That's good advice. That's just because you were there, obviously. You were.
Yeah, because it wasn't the right thing for me to do. For some people, having a few spliffs is great. For some people, it takes over. And unfortunately, I was one of those. So I would definitely say that. In a more light-hearted way, I would say, look, Nick, you're not going to be a rock star. So spend less time on your guitar and more time going out and doing some work and getting some money behind you. Become an electrician or something.
But it's good to follow your dreams sometime, isn't it? You know, it's good. I mean, I was in a band back in Peterborough for about 2 minutes. And it was just the most brilliant experience. I played bass. I was the worst bass player ever. I think I could do. I was just the old dum 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 dum. You know, but it was fantastic experience. Such good fun.
Well, I don't know what kids are like now because my 2 girls are in their 30s. But you know, when I was a teenager, we were going to do what we wanted anyway. Especially from my background, you know, the Ortons. You know, we weren't going to listen to sage advice from anybody.
If you could only go back to one location, or you could only visit one location you haven't been to, so let's say they said, sorry Nick, it's your last possible chance to go anywhere, where would it be and why?
For photography?
For photography, yeah.
For photography. Well, that's so difficult.
I know, sorry.
It's so difficult. But I would probably say the side of a lletha in the Hrinogydd, looking down on Llyn Hywel and Hrynog Fach. Because that's a place of huge significance to me, and it's bloody photogenic as well.
Okay, that's it. This is in the Snowdonia range, is it?
It is, yeah. It's not far from Harlech.
Oh, okay.
It's the real wild. The English call them the Rhinogs.
Right. Okay.
Which sounds like some kind of wild animal to me, but so well, yeah, it would. It would be Llyn Hywel in the Hrinogydd. Definitely.
Okay. And
I actually went there with Thomas Heaton.
Oh, okay, right.
Only I swore him to secrecy. I said, you're not allowed to tell anybody where this is, otherwise I will get battered.
Well, fortunately, I'm such a small channel that hardly anyone's going to know. If Thomas had mentioned it, we could have been in a bit of bother.
Yeah, well, the funny thing is he didn't know where he was. He didn't know what he was looking at. He's got literally no knowledge of Snowdonia, so it worked out really well. And freed him up as well, because there was no preconceptions either. He just reacted to what he was presented with.
That's often a very, like, I always find if you go somewhere and you've got no preconceptions of what it's going to be, you always take better photographs.
I agree.
Because if you go in somewhere where you've seen that shot, you always end up either trying your best to avoid that shot and maybe turning your back on something that's worthwhile, or you just go and take that shot and then ignore what else is there.
That's right, and also the thing with these places that we're familiar with, you only ever see them photographed in great light. So if we're not given great light, we're a bit miserable about it, you know. So this photography journey is amazing because you start out and after a year you think you really know what you're talking about. And I've done, over these 10 years, I've done loads of interviews with magazines and this, that and the other. And on each occasion I've thought I've got the answer. And then the next year I'll do another one and realise that I've learnt a hell of a lot and I was talking a lot of bollocks before. And it's just a never-ending journey of growth.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if I go back now and look at a photo from 10 years ago, I'll go, oh my God. If I go 5 years ago, I'll still go, oh my God. But that photo there 5 years ago would have been, that's fantastic. This is an amazing image. And you're right, you're always moving forward. And I think the times when you move forward the most is when you think you're standing still or you think you're getting worse. It's because you've come into a realisation of where you're at, actually.
Well, that's right, yeah, because those occasions or those times are quite uncomfortable, aren't they? And growth only comes from discomfort. It's like I always say, you know, if we go out only in great conditions, we're not going to get any better as photographers. Because it's like, once you're of a technical proficiency, you can just do it automatically. You can compose quickly enough. You can get everything in focus, everything you want to be in focus, and it's like shooting fish in a barrel.
Yeah.
You're never going to get any better.
No.
So I like going out in sort of, not necessarily suboptimal conditions, but I kind of avoid golden hours now. Because it's too easy, and I'm also sick to death of seeing golden hour photographs.
Well, do you know, I was about to say that. As I've gone on in my sort of photography journey, if you like, I dislike colour, real saturated colour more and more. So, you know, 5 years ago, if I saw a sunset, I'd be like, oh, I can't believe I'm missing that sunset. And now I'm like, I probably wouldn't have shot that anyway.
Yeah.
You know, I want drama rather than, oh, lovely colours. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I used to hate haze, and now I'm rather a fan of it because I like softer images.
And layers.
Whereas before, layers. Before, I wanted everything to be super contrasty.
Yes.
Now I like just a hint, a suggestion of detail. And I'll take contrasty every day, but I don't necessarily need it. And that's that other thing with growth. You have these ideal... A great question would be, what's your ideal shooting conditions? Well, I haven't got any. I just go out and see what's going on. And it's only when you've gone through a few of these stages as a photographer that you can actually do that. Because you've removed all the preconceptions, you've removed the ideals, and you're just, you know, reacting to what you're given.
Yeah, absolutely. I always have this thing, and I've always said it. You look at the great photos, and I think that most competent amateurs can take those great photos given the conditions. So it's once you get to a certain level, I know composition's important, but once you get to a certain level of competence, it's all about luck, being in the right place at the right time, or perseverance, rather.
Absolutely, and you do make your own look to a certain extent. But what I've found is, you know, the honeymoon period of my photography, where I'd happily get up at 2 a.m, is long gone. So I'm not getting as lucky when it comes to those big banger things.
Yeah.
Because it's a young man's game, isn't it?
It is. It is.
You've got to really want it because it's tough.
It's hard work. Getting up
I used to
at
get
that
up
time
at
in
2 in the morning
Yeah,
and climb Crib Goch. Not think anything of it. No chance. Not anymore.
No chance for me ever, mate.
You're not missing much.
All right, okay. Let's talk about this. This is one of my favourite questions, so it's actually 2 questions. What is your best experience behind a camera? And what's your worst experience behind a camera?
That's quite difficult, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Considering I've been out on the hill, which is where most of my photography takes place, in between 2,000 and 3,000 times. Worst experience? Don't think I've had one. Don't think I've had any sort of catastrophic battery failure or lightning strike or anything like that. Best experience? Possibly the shot that started it all off for me, which I took 2 years before I was a photographer, and that was on the Ernach Ridge in Glencoe, and we had a temperature inversion all day long. And I took a photograph with a £60 compact camera, which eventually found its way into Landscape Photographer of the Year book.
Wow.
In 2012. And it was taken 2 years before I even considered myself as a photographer.
Wow.
So
That's
I will
impressive.
say that because, you know, I was taking photographs all day long, but it was one of those remarkable days which will live with me forever. You know, it really was stunning.
I get that. I think the conditions are sometimes they're just right, aren't they? And they're just right for just the right amount of time. I went to Wyoming Brook, and it was raining, but it was misty rain, and it was there all day long. And do you? I mean, I don't know about you, but I got to a point where I was like, I just want to go home now. Like, I've had enough of these fantastic, like, unbelievable conditions. I just want to go home. I don't know. All right, so thank you for that. All right, this one I'm really looking forward to. social media,
Yeah.
blessing or curse, and why?
Well, blessing or a curse, I think that's a bit binary, isn't it? On balance, a curse, without a doubt. Everything about it is shit, really. What are the good things about it, do you think? I think they're probably being able to stay in contact with people that you can't see as often as you'd like.
Yeah.
But all the rest of it just seems to be rather toxic and not massively helpful to good mental health.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. I think maybe YouTube, if you count YouTube as social media, is a fantastic source of knowledge. So if you want to learn something, like whereas before you just have no idea.
Absolutely, I don't see YouTube as social media.
No, okay.
So I'm thinking Facebook.
Yeah.
Really,
Yeah.
which I'm completely addicted to.
Are you?
Yeah, I'm on it all the time. The amount of hours I waste every single day of my life on it, just scrolling away.
Do you find Facebook now, though, is more, and Twitter to a point, is more of an advertising platform than it is social media?
It seems to be. Yeah, it seems to be. And also, Twitter I could never get on with. I could never seem to get it to work for me. It always seemed quite complicated, the interface. Trying to find somebody's... and also, it's a very, very nasty place, apparently, isn't it?
It can be, yeah. If you stumble in the wrong area, it's incredibly toxic. I think the biggest problem for me with Twitter, other than that, is the fact that you cannot see a thread. So if someone posts something on Twitter, the replies are all over the place.
They are, and that's what I found difficult with it. I couldn't navigate it in any kind of useful way.
Yeah. But it seems to be the place to go for the photography community now. They seem to congregate on Twitter. But I find all social media, I don't know why I'm giving this answer really, because I should be asking you, but I find all social media is very much just like a marketing tool now for people. You know, look at what I've done. You know, so yeah, it's a bit of a shame. It's a bit of a shame because it used to be, in its purest form, Facebook was brilliant. You know?
I loved it at first. It was really positive. I tell you what, Facebook then was fun.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, there was you didn't have the politics. You didn't have all the big gobs, the opinions. I think Twitter's very bad for opinions, isn't it? People who think they've got it all worked out.
Yeah, well, Twitter is, like you say, it's a very toxic place. It can be a really good community in terms of, but it just depends who you follow and where you get kind of dragged into, you know, because there was a whole thing, I'd say 5 or 6 years back, when YouTube was just starting out with landscape photography, and it was incredibly divisive between, you know, if you weren't on YouTube, if you were just a photographer, the views of people on YouTube were just shocking. Oh, yeah, awful, you know, terrible photographers, lazy, and all this sort of stuff. So, yeah, it wasn't great. It wasn't a great place to be, I've got to say.
It's funny because you mentioned the photography community earlier, and maybe I've just distanced myself, but it seems to be simmering down a bit. Some of the people that were very active, myself included, aren't doing so much these days. But a lot of them think they're dead important, and no one's heard of them, apart from a couple of other photographers.
I know. It's
such an insular vacuum, and their work isn't really getting out there. It's like a big online camera club, isn't it?
That's exactly
to me,
right. Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
The great photographers, the best photographers, are the ones who are getting work on people's walls, or into books, or into magazines, where it's being consumed by a wider public.
What's your favourite 3 songs at the moment? What's your favourite 3 songs ever?
An impossible question, of course, but if I had to choose, it might be "If" by Bread.
Okay.
"Please Let Me Wonder" by the Beach Boys. And maybe even something as popular as "Red Red Wine" by UB40.
Oh, classic song.
But I've got such an eclectic taste, and music is such a large part of my life. I could be here all night.
So you were a session, a musician? Were you a guitarist or?
Predominantly I was a guitarist, but I'm a multi-instrumental. I play 7 different instruments. So what I used to do mainly was people would bring their songs to me and I would produce an industry standard demo for them. So I'd play all the instruments, record them all, arrange the vocal harmonies and just give them something they could take away to record companies.
Oh wow. I bet that was unbelievably interesting to do, wasn't it?
It was really interesting because I got to do all these different types of music, and the whole point of it was my job wasn't to put my personality onto these songs. It was to try and figure out where this person wanted to take them and facilitate that for them. So yeah, it was really varied, really interesting, and very, very rewarding too.
Sounds a bit like being a professional photographer.
Yes, if you're doing sort of, if you're a jobbing photographer.
Yeah.
You know, weddings, products,
yeah,
anything. You've just got to be technically good at it, haven't you? And
yeah, exactly.
Deliver.
Yeah, and put someone else's stamp on your work, if you like. Do it to how they want it to be done.
Yeah.
You've been arrested. Okay. You've only got one phone call.
Yeah.
Right. Which photography vlogger are you calling to get you out of trouble, and how are you expecting them to help you?
That would be David Griffiths. That's because, let's just imagine that we're part of a corrupt system. Just imagine.
Yeah, just for a minute, just suspend your disbelief.
I'm not 100% sure, because it's not something we talk about, but I reckon he's got a bob or two. So if he needed to bail me out with a few quid, that would be handy. But also, he's a very clever guy. Mm-hmm. He's a very clever and intelligent man, and he's a problem solver too. So I reckon he'd be an enormous help.
Funnily enough, you're the second person who's mentioned his name when that's come up. So I think the first one just thought he had a bit of money because of his cravat.
I'm more interested in his crevasse.
He's a great guy, Dave. I've got to say, I've got so much time for him. So much time for him.
And he's even nicer in real life than he is on the YouTube.
Well, I think that's the thing. You get a lot of people on YouTube who you probably speak to them in real life, and they're not the same. He's exactly the same. He is as lovely in real life, like you say, probably more lovely in real life.
He is. He's a proper, genuine bloke.
Yeah, and knowledgeable. Very, very knowledgeable.
Yeah, I'll tell you what makes me laugh as well about some of the vloggers and I've met a lot now. Sometimes on the vlogging, they can come across as being quite square. But get them off camera, and they're bloody characters. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you know what I think that is? I think that there's a real art to talking to a camera and being yourself.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of people, and I can understand it. A lot of people suddenly they try to be.
They go into presenter mode.
Exactly. They think they need to be something different to come across. Whereas I find that the best ones are always the ones who are just themselves. Just be yourself. Yeah, you're right. There's loads. I've met a few who are so funny, and you think, why don't you say that to the camera?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
So some of my favourite vloggers, and I don't watch many, but my favourite ones, and mentioning no names, they're not great photographers, but I love watching their vlogs because it's just like hanging out with a mate for 10 minutes. They're good company, and I enjoy listening to them talk.
Yeah, I get that totally. I'm
not really that interested in how good a photographer you are, because photography in that sense doesn't interest me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm, me alone in this lonely cottage. I'm just looking for some good company of an evening.
Is that your Tinder profile?
Yeah.
Do you take photos for you, or do you take photos for others?
I used to take photos for others without realising it, because of course I did get ensnared in that social media game. We love the dopamine rush of getting a load of likes and plenty of comments, don't we? We really do love it. But at this stage in my life, I really am not interested in pleasing anybody but myself. I've gained when you're earlier in your photographic career, you want validation. And the better the photographer validates you, the more, satisfied you feel. But I'm very comfortable in my own skin, and I don't need validation for anybody because I know my weaknesses and I know my capabilities. So now I feel like I'm in a very healthy place. I still really enjoy taking photographs, but I'm not that fussed if other people like them.
Do you think your photography's changed from the moment you decided I'm not doing this for other people now? Do you think that your photography, your actual style of photography has changed due to that?
Yeah, I'm less prolific, for one. That's one thing. I very rarely go out taking photographs now. I always take the camera with me, but I'm not like that. I'm going out to take photos. But I think my images now have become a lot quieter. They don't scream at you quite as much as the big Vista type thing. And I'm just as happy now to take photographs in a valley than I am on the top of a mountain. In fact, probably more so, because they're more interesting in a lot of ways, photographically. A big view's a big view, innit?
Yeah.
I can enjoy that without feeling the need to take photographs. What I really enjoy doing is taking photographs of people that I'm out on the hill with. You know, and a figure in the landscape can really save a dodgy composition.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I was going to say you mean in their surroundings, so not portraits, but
some portraits, some candid, some kind of action shots, some of the more posed ones where they've got their leg up on a rock, you know, the old cliched man legging. But I just really love seeing people interacting with the outdoors, because without human interaction, no matter how beautiful these places are, they're pretty meaningless. It's our reaction to these places that makes them mean something. Otherwise, they're just an inanimate landform which has no feelings or emotions in or of itself.
Yeah.
Which wouldn't care if we were there or not. So the important part is the human interaction. And that was something that took me years to realise.
That's a really good point, actually. That's a really, really good point, because...
Imagine if there were no people on the earth. The mountains would still be as beautiful. They'd still look the same in a lot of ways.
But you wouldn't have that emotion, would you?
No, it's the humanity that makes them special.
Yeah, like you were saying before. You put a person in an image, and the viewer puts themselves into that person's shoes, and they see the magnificence through their eyes and the scale that you're showing.
Yeah.
That's really interesting, actually. That's really, really interesting.
Well, we're sort of touching on a philosophical point there, really.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost as it's that old chestnut of, you know, if a tree falls down in a forest and there's no one there to hear it, does it make a noise? Well, it's exactly the same thing. If there's a mountain with nobody on it or nobody looking at it, is it still beautiful?
If money was no object, right, Nick, absolutely no object, what piece of photographic equipment would you love to get?
I'd like to get one of those big, large format, a Joe Cornish type camera.
Yeah.
And I'd get a nice top of the range Sony A series one. And I'd probably get some Fuji cameras as well, because I really like the way their files look.
The Fuji greens, is that? Or just in general?
The XT ones.
No, because the Fujis there's a real thing with Fuji greens.
Oh, is it the greens?
Yeah, they're supposed to be very...
Not particularly the greens, it's just what I've found with them. The files look very organic.
Okay.
Almost analogue, very filmic. I know they've got like film profiles and stuff, haven't they? But they just look less crunchy. Because sometimes, you know, files come out the back of my camera and they just look really digital.
What's your camera at the moment?
It's an old one, it's a Canon 6D.
Okay.
Which I really love. It's still doing the business for me. But occasionally they just look weird.
Right,
they look too digital.
That's the thing, though, I think, as well. People want perfection nowadays. Or they feel like they want perfection. They want perfection with their lenses, they want perfection with their sensors. And I think there's a lot to be said about imperfection. Because imperfection gives you that sense of emotion sometimes and feeling.
I do too, and with the digital medium, it's so difficult at times to make your images look organic. And after all, we're taking photographs of organic things.
Yeah.
So when I look at something like a long exposure shot of some groins, or a still lake, they look really clinical and cold. Whereas when you was taking those photographs, your arse is probably wet on a load of sphagnum moss, You've got a load of peat under your fingernails. You can smell everything. And a lot of the images nowadays are processed in a way that they come out looking like they've come out of a laboratory.
Yeah.
Rather than a natural environment.
Yeah. I think going back to social media, what we'll call YouTube social media, I think YouTube's got a lot to answer for that. Because everywhere you look, it's when you're first a photographer, it's got to be, you know, front to back sharp, pin sharp images.
Yeah.
You know, get everything in focus. And life isn't like that. You know, I mean, okay, you need an acceptable amount of sharpness and focus, but you want that little bit of something else, that little bit of feel, that little bit of fuzziness sometimes. You know,
it's that thing again, Gary. What are we communicating? But most photographers don't ask themselves that question. You know, when I started photography, I had a little Canon G12 compact. It was all I could afford. An entry-level DSLR I would have smashed up in no time. We had Lightroom. I had Photomatics. Do you remember that?
I don't know. I don't.
It was the first real big HDR software, and they used to get a trial version which had watermarks all over it, and I would clone them out. And the first year or so, it was so incredibly exciting because I could take long exposures and do star trails and, you know, do all these things and explore what a modern camera and software could do. But once I got all that out of my system, I had to go back to square one and say, right, why am I taking photographs? Why did I decide to do that? And it's because I love the mountains.
Yeah.
But you've got to get through all that, haven't you? You've got to see what the medium's capable of. Some people just like fiddling around with toys, don't they?
Do you know when I first got? I think I had a Rebel T3i or something, which is like a 550D. I think.
Is that like the American version, the Rebel?
Yeah. I bought it on eBay. Got it second hand, and prior to that, I'd only had Lumix, old Panasonic Lumix cameras, and I got this Rebel T3i, and I think literally the second trip out, I just went and found a bridge and photographed a motorway in the dark for the trails.
Because you've got to do it.
Exactly.
It's got to be done.
Oh my God, I can't believe this. This is absolutely amazing. But you're right, again, when you talk about what am I taking photographs of? What am I doing? What's the point of this image? You ask yourself that when you sort of get to a point, don't you? And you have to progress. And then you never ask it again because it's just there in you. You just go, and when you frame up, you've already asked yourself the question as you're framing it up.
Yeah.
But you just haven't. You've just subconsciously done it.
Yeah.
You know?
And there's also that thing about integrity. I used to swap skies all the time. We're going back a long way, but I, resorted to every kind of photographic subterfuge you can think of. And I used to post my photographs on ukclimbing.com, which is a big climbing site.
Okay.
And I got really popular really quickly. And I was basking in all this glory. I was winning Photo of the Week every week. I won three categories in a big competition they had and won a load of gear with all these fake photos. But there was this nagging thing that just wouldn't go away, saying, you're cheap, mate.
Yeah.
If you're really going to be a good photographer, then do it properly and stop using all these tricks.
I have that feeling with myself with panoramas. And I know I've been given grief before there. Everyone gives me grief, says, oh, you're cheating with your panorama. But I had to go back to not doing panoramas for a while to justify that it was okay to do panoramas, if that made sense. Because if you see a scene in front of you and you go, oh, I really like that, and you just go click, 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 click in a pano, and then you put it all together and you go, right, that's the bit I like. It's like you're almost you're not progressing because you just see something you think's right and you do it at home. Whereas, I had to spend a bit of time when I first got my Sony, because it's 40 whatever megapixels. I was like, oh, okay, I can crop it if I need to. I then started doing just single frames, getting that competition locked down, and now I'm back to panoramas again because I'm like, I can do it if I want to.
I think it's really important that you can compose in camera. I really do. But I think there's a lot of snobbiness out there. Most of my sort of mid work was mid-period work was panoramas. But I used to do them in a landscape orientation
Okay, yeah.
I'll go like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Okay.
So you get these normal aspect ratios.
Yeah, but super
conventional,
resolution.
but super resolution. So you'd go there with a 24mm lens and think, how the hell has he got all that in?
Yeah, yeah. And the detail as well.
Yeah, because back then I was selling a lot of prints in the gallery, so I could print them really big, and they were looking superb.
That's one of the things I love about panos, is the fact that you can, on Flickr, because Flickr's great as well, we were talking about it earlier, but Flickr's great because it goes in, and then if it'll go in again.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I often think, I hope people are going into that and going, wow, look at the detail in there, because it's such a huge resolution file by the time you finish with it. My computer doesn't like it very much, but
no, mine doesn't.
Yeah.
I've got a 12-year-old Mac which is starting to protest.
Yeah, I can imagine doing the big old panos. So you're talking earlier about your 6D. So we've all got that camera. We've all got that one camera that we had in the past and maybe still have that we absolutely love. What's yours? What's your sort of favourite nostalgic camera that you've owned? That I don't know if you still have it, but one that you wish you could have. You know, just you pick it up and you just go, oh, feels
it's
right.
the Canon G12.
Okay.
Now, I don't know if you remember the Canon G series. They were like really good compacts. And so I got my G12, and after about 18 months, 2 years, I progressed to a 7D. But the fun I had with that G12, because it had all the manual controls on it, and I even got this filter adapter, which I could put on the front, so it made it look like it had a proper lens on, and I had a DSLR, and it was just so cool, and I learned so much. But when I came to live here, I lent it to one of the guys in the Ogwen Valley Mountain Rescue team, and he took it on a shout, and it got really wet, and he knackered it.
Oh,
so he sort of paid for it. He said, oh, I'll give you some money for it. But a couple of years ago, I bought another one off eBay, just for nostalgic value.
Yeah, just to have it. Yeah.
Yeah, because I love holding it, I love looking at it. It's just such a formative piece of gear for me.
Well, do you know what? I've got to go because my curry's coming in 5 minutes' time. But I haven't asked half the questions I wanted to ask, mate, because we've just had such a good chat.
Well, I'm sorry for waffling on.
No, it's not. It's not you. It's not you waffling on at all. It's been absolutely fascinating talking to you.
I've found it enormously enjoyable. I really have.
If you guys want to check out Nick's channel, which I'm sure you will do after this, then I'm going to put a link in the description below. But I've got to say, he's one of my favourite photographers. And the other thing about you is he's so friendly. Nick is such a friendly and welcoming guy. I remember when you used to work in Cafe Shabod, and I came in and I was a little bit sheepish, and you were so friendly. So, you know, please check out Nick's channel. And you know, and if you're ever in Snowdonia, you know, he'll be on one of the mountains somewhere. So just if you see him walking, just say hello, mate, and I guarantee he'll come and talk to you. Probably. Thank you so much.
I'll be hiding behind a bloody rock.
Thank you so much, mate. I've really enjoyed it. And,
you're welcome. Me too.
And thank you for watching. And we'll see you again next time. Thank you. Bye bye.